And it's really nice to see everybody actually finally in one room. I was just talking about it earlier. And again, thank you for the invitation. India told me that just to come here and tell a little bit about my story. Hopefully, it can help you, it can inspire you, or at least it can raise questions on, everybody's story. I think everybody's path is very different, but at least it can help you to learn a little bit of the tools and give you just some piece of advice, I guess, that I've learned as I went. And really, my story, I think, it's really a story of having great mentors, of a lot of people that really see in you what you don't see in yourself sometimes. And I was very fortunate to have those people in my life. And I think even here at SUNY Poly, which it makes me a little shy to see one of them in front of me. So, but Susan Sharfstein was one of them. And Dr. Yubing, and just people throughout my life, and especially here at SUNY. As some of you may or may not know, I'm originally from Peru, and I came here when I was 15 years old, right? And I actually did not speak Spanish. I'm sorry, I did speak Spanish. I did not speak any English. In fact, I actually refused to learn English, even though my mom put me in all these English classes, because I thought, what's the point, right? I live here, I speak Spanish, there's no need. And we ended up moving here, mainly because she saw the opportunity for me to go to school, and I really liked the sciences. I wasn't sure what I would necessarily want to do, but I was interested in math and sciences, and she's like, I think that's where you will find more opportunities. So I ended up coming here. I actually did go to high school for about 3 years or so almost all high school. And I knew no English. So you can imagine me carrying my backpack with a giant dictionary. Because back then we didn't have dictionaries on the phone, it was so different. So that way I had to learn, but I think it helped me a lot because I got to, you pick up the books and you get to learn and you get to read. So sometimes, although a lot of people that are international may feel that their language might be, something that puts them a little bit behind, I think it actually helps you a lot because you get to learn it even more so because you're actually really digging into what you're reading. And that, I think that's really something that to me, a lot of people don't know that about me. But yeah, I did all my work, following every single line, looking up in the dictionary. And then I learned English that way. And then, I went to college. I was the first one to go to college here from my family. And my mom didn't know, about the process of going to college. What do you do? How are you supposed to enroll? Do you take the SATs? Like, what is this? I had no idea. So I kind of had to do it on my own with the help of my, forget how you call them, the people in high school that help you with your counselors. Yes, your counselor. And they were very, very helpful, right? They told me, well, you have to take the SATs, you have to study for the SATs. If you take AP classes, that's also going to help you. And I actually really liked a lot of the classes I was taking. And I remember taking a physics class, right? I remember taking a physics class and I was having a really hard time, not because I didn't understand the topic, but the words they were using for the questions they were asking were very difficult for me. And when I went and take the SATs, that was even more apparent, right? So I remember an SAT question asking me about telling how a person is jumping off a plane and is using a parachute and what is the resistance and all these, these questions. And I remember not knowing what the word parachute was at all. I had no idea. And I remember asking the teacher, right, who was there, and I asked him, he's like, what's a parachute? He's like, I can't tell you. So can I pull out my dictionary? He's like, no, because that's, you could be cheating and you can't do that. And he's like, he tell me something that I think it's important for me to tell because you can't let things like this get to you, right? He said to me, how about you just give me the test because between you and I, we know that you're not going to be able to finish it or pass the test, right? And oh gosh, I felt awful. I skipped that test. That question. I went to do the other ones. I still passed the test, so I did. I don't know if he realized that I did. But it really stuck with me because I think a lot of people have different expectations based on what they see, right? At that point, they saw me struggling, not knowing certain words. And I think that really is what led me to also think back and think, okay, we can't let this kind of, you never know what this person could be going through, right? They could have been having a really bad day. I was obviously the last one there because I take a lot longer. And you can't really let those things get to you, right? You need to know yourself. You need to know your limits. You need to know how far you can go. I think in that case, that's something that I learned based on that experience. So I ended up going to college. I ended up going actually across the street at SUNY Albany, mainly because it was closer from home. It's a SUNY school, so it was a lot cheaper for my parents to pay for it. And I was the first one, so I didn't know what else to do. And they had a great program. And I thought I wanted to do either to become a lawyer or to become a doctor, mainly because those are the only professions that I knew about in Peru, right? You either become a lawyer, you become a doctor or an accountant, and that's about it. Because we really don't see any other professions, right? At least I didn't know. But I knew I liked the sciences. So the first year that I was in school in SUNY Albany, I ended up applying for the SUNY Summer Research Foundation, SUNY Albany Summer Research Foundation. But mainly because I wanted to understand, what is a scientist, right? What does that mean? How, like, I did not understand. I understood I liked the sciences. I had really great teachers that even though we had, rooms that were really, really big, they were still taking the time to talk with me and to get to know me and help me throughout the course. So I ended up getting into this program and I got really, really great mentors. And I think that's really where I think my luck were really a blessing to be able to have had great mentors throughout my life. So I ended up having several mentors from SUNY Albany itself, from the program itself, that really taught me about, really teach me about not giving up. You really have to be ready for everything and to work harder than you ever thought because, just that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. And especially on the sciences, not everything goes perfect. So guess what? You're going to have to see horrible results or horrible data, and you're going to have to try again and figure out how to change it. So I had to learn. I learned about that. And they also paired me up in a lab that had a lot of not students really. It was mostly staff scientists that were actually working on developing nanoparticles for drug delivery systems. And I thought that was really, really cool. So I get to this lab. And of course, they put me with this senior scientist who was really busy, right? And oh God, he had no time for me whatsoever, no time. In fact, I went into reading and learning because I had no idea what nanotechnology or nanoparticles were. And I learned, and then I said, okay, when am I going to do experiments? All these other kids in the program are doing experiments. And he tells me, okay, well, you're going to add this to this and this and that, and then you're going to let it go, and then you're going to take, some test. I'll show you how to use the machine. And I had no idea what he had to say. Literally, that's how he sounded to me. So I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? So I went into his office again. He's in the middle of finishing up a grant that he's writing. And I was like, can you please show me where this stuff is? I promise I will do, He's like, where is this and where is that? And he showed me. He showed me where this is. And he's like, I'm sorry, I really don't have a lot of time because I need to go and finish this grant and I have to finish this paper. And then he went on telling me everything. And I felt really bad because he was very stressed out. But that really helped me because after that, I got to also, after working with them in this lab, really helped me to understand and really practice independence, right? I became very independent. I got to learn a lot of, once I knew what this and that meant and how to put it together, I could do when coming up with an experiment. I started just bringing up data and seeing, okay, what does this mean? Should we change it? And actually became more of a dialogue as colleagues as opposed to just as a mentor. And I actually really enjoyed it and I appreciated that because he teach me, like I said, about independence. So then the actual, I guess, main person, the director of this lab, Dr. Shaker Musa, and we were finally meeting with him, right? Because we had meetings and presented our data, right? he actually, I showed him what I did the whole summer. He was very, very happy and very impressed with what I had done. And he said something to me that stuck to this day as well. And he said to me, no matter what you do, because I told him, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to go into science. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just trying to fill this out, trying to understand. And he said to me, no matter what you do, just become the best at what you do, and everything else will follow. Just and do the best that you can to be the best at what you're doing. Everything else will follow. And I was like, how does that make sense? He said, yeah, if you want to be a clown, be the best clown you can be, and then you'll get a lot of hunters, you get a lot of people interested, everything will work out. So I was like, wow, okay, I guess that makes sense. If you're the best at what you do, everything else will follow. So, that really stuck with me. And from that, I tried my best to try to do the best that I could, because I don't know if I can be the best, but I can certainly try my best to do the best that I can do. And that was my first mentor, right? And he pushed me. He's like, we need to publish this data. We need to try to get here. And I was like, you really think this is publishable data? Like, I didn't know about publications. I had no idea what that meant, except that they were a lot of work, because I saw people in that lab stressed out about papers. And so, we put together papers. We talked about where we're going to send them, what journals, and it was a whole experience for me. I learned a lot from there. I ended up actually staying in that lab for another 3 years. So I went from being just a summer researcher to actually end up staying there. And I remember, staying there, and people still laugh. They say, Karen, your shoes are still there. Because I remember, I didn't have a car, and these labs are actually in Rensselaer, and we're here in Albany. I had no car, so I had to take the bus. So sometimes my experiments would run late, and I would miss the bus. So I would actually have to stay in the lab, locked in, doing the work, and then just try to take the bus next morning. So it was actually, I know it sounds a little crazy, but I got a lot more done, and actually I learned a lot. I got to do a lot of work, got to do a lot of reading, and they're like, how do you just stay here? This is not safe. And I was like, no, it's okay. It's fine. And they joke around now, because I used to leave my shoe at the door, so I wouldn't get locked out when I had to go to the bathroom, like similar things that you're not supposed to do here. But things like that. And I think we became a little bit more, the relationship with everybody in the lab became more as a colleague and really mentorship, right? They started to discuss with me some of the experiments and the papers, and that was great. That was a great, great feeling. So ever since then, I said, you know what? I do want to go into the sciences. I do want to become a scientist. And so I graduated, and I applied to SUNY Poly, right back then, SUNY Nanotech, different names. But because I thought, okay, we're going to do nanotechnology in here, because I was doing nanoparticles, and I'm going to keep doing nanoparticles, because that's what I know to do, and that's what I like to do. Well, guess what? That's not what I did, right? And that's another thing I learned. You have to be completely open-minded to change your path from what you thought you were going to do something different. And I think that's another important part, right? Be open to the opportunities that you're given. Don't lock yourself into, I have to do this and this is all I'm going to do, because guess what? Science is changing rapidly, and they are all interconnected. So guess what? You're going to be moving from what you think you started, you're going to be doing something completely different by the time you graduate, or even you get your first or second grant, or you go on. So I came here thinking I'm going to do nanoparticles, and I ended up meeting Dr. Susan Sharfstein and Dr. Ewing, and I ended up working with them, right? And I remember the first year or so, Dr. Sharfstein telling me, well, there's this grant that you should apply. I think it would be helpful for you to apply, this NSF grant. And I was like, oh, okay, so I look into it, and I see how low rates of people actually getting this NSF grant, right? There's so, it's impossible for me to get it. And I heard all the graduate students applying and not being able to get it. So I was like, I don't think I can do it. Like, do you really think I should do it? And they're like, I think you can do it. You might as well apply. What's the worst they can say? They're going to say no. And I think, Susan, you say that to me a lot, which is great, because that pushes me to keep going into trying things that I never thought I would do. And a lot of times they do end up sticking. So it's actually great. So I applied, and they had another review. They sent some papers. They asked some other questions. We answered, and then we forgot about it, thinking, okay, well, that's that. I didn't get it. And we ended up getting it. And I remember this, going to a group meeting and Susan having this cake for me. And I was like, what are we celebrating? And she's like, we're celebrating that you got this fellowship. Like, this is really exciting. And I was like, really? She's like, Karen, you don't understand. Like, this is huge. Not a lot of people get it. And I think this is really going to help you in your career. So ever since then, that really stuck with me because, having these mentors and these people that see something in you that others don't see, I think is huge. And we really need to be grateful and identify those great mentors as well. And I think I was, again, fortunate to have those, to met those here at SUNY. So anyways, and I think she was right. I think because of that fellowship, that really helped me a lot. I got a lot of experience. He helped us to start a research really that was unknown for all of us, right? For my advisors as well as for me, and the rest is basically working hard, trying to get some data, and getting interesting data, publishing it, and then getting the interest from pharmaceuticals and biotech companies about this technology, right? So we're like, really, people are actually willing to pay for this. Are they really going to pay for this? And so we started, okay, let's try to tease out, can this really be a business? Can people actually pay for this? So we started, they said, you should try to take this class, this business class, because I knew nothing about business. That's the last thing I would have thought I would be doing. I mean, last thing, literally. You went from like, okay, maybe I'll become a lawyer or a doctor to now talking about business. There's no way. So anyways, I took this class and they said, well, we're going to try to put a business plan competition. And we're going to pick some projects that would potentially be a business. So we started, we said, okay, let's try with this technology. They were excited. And we did all these other interviews that I didn't know about, right? We started interviewing companies. We started talking to potential clients. We started going into putting together what the business would be, and I remember it being really hard, really over my head. I was like, this is a lot of work. I don't know how, I still was trying to graduate. I need to finish my work. It's just difficult. But then I remember talking to my advisors again, and they said, what's the worst that can happen, right? You may not get it, or if you get it, and if you really don't want to do it, at least we have some money to continue the research that you're doing. So I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. At least I can get some money to continue the research I'm doing. And I was really excited because the money for the fellowship was only enough for a certain amount of time and only can take us so far. So at least we can get some money for some material to do more work. So I was really excited. Okay, so let's do this. And we ended up actually, winning the track for the biotech, which was great. But then when we enter actually to the final, and we ended up finding out that we won, I mean, that was shocking for me. You have to remember that back then, this was 2014, I believe, 2014. There was this big boom, and still, right? Green energy is huge here in New York, right? They were trying to go, and especially we were known for semiconductor and clean energy, like the biggest thing in New York. So there was no way in my mind that we were going to win in a biotech company, right? In a biotech technology type. But we did. And I think I took it that, okay, this is a sign. I'm going to take this opportunity and we're going to run with it. And what's the worst that can happen? Because again, this is actually something that I talk to my advisors, right? What's the worst that can happen? I get to learn something that no other student, that nobody else can take away from me, and that they probably have not learned before. So I'm still taking this as a learning opportunity, right? And that's really what it is, taking learning opportunities. I like to learn. I'm still learning. I think we all are, whether or not we realize. So I like that idea. Okay, yes, I can still learn something. And if it fails, at least, I would still take something out of it. So we started Glauconix back then. The business plan competition gave us money for lawyers, which I didn't realize we needed. Gave us money for accountants. Gave us money also to start a lab. Can we start doing some marketing? So I had to learn all these things by myself. And actually, I should step back. I did end up meeting two other great people, three actually, but two of them stuck with us for a while. who actually had backgrounds in law as well as pharma industry. So these two gentlemen, Ferry and Kobe, they both are also SUNY students. One of them SUNY Albany and the other one actually SUNY Poly. And we met in this class. So really our backgrounds stuck together. So if you're ever thinking about starting a business, don't look for people that have the same background that you do. Because guess what? The blind cannot lead the blind. You need someone else who knows something else different than what you know to really help you guide through those, filling those gaps that really come up, especially when you're starting a business. So anyways, we started Glauconix. We ended up having our first client on 2015, I remember. And this was a company that was working for drugs for glaucoma. And they said, well, I wish we would have known of your technology before because you guys would have saved us so much time. And that was really exciting to hear, right? But is this technology actually going to become something? So we did this study for them, completely underpaid, like, right, basically just paying for the materials. And it worked very nicely. And from there, they put a good word. We started working a lot more. We licensed, of course, the technology. The technology had to be licensed through SUNY, which is a whole different beast on itself, right? How do you learn about licensing? How do you negotiate licensing? Oh my gosh, I had to learn and ask a lot of questions. So that's also something else for everybody who's listening or viewing. Do not be afraid to ask. You know, I feel like sometimes I feel bad for the people that are around me because I ask way too many questions. But honestly, that has helped me a lot, right? I ended up asking how do we, or even looking it up myself, right? Or talking to other people, how do you negotiate a license, right? How is it going to favor you? So all of these other things, and sometimes it's just, you just have to learn as you go. And I think that's the way I put it because I didn't know everything. And at this point, I was the CEO technically, and I was doing everything and I was learning. My team was great. They were helping me a lot. But we also had to make decisions that none of us had known because none of us had started a company. So anyways, we navigated through that. We learned a lot. We learned some things we could have done differently. For example, I think we would have definitely, gotten our lab a lot quicker. We would have negotiated a lot of the terms of our licensing as well a lot quicker because that took a long time. But at the beginning, you gotta remember, we were not sure if this was going to be a viable business or not. So that's also why we were a little hesitant as well. And we didn't know how much it would cost. So, and that's still a constant. We need to renegotiate that agreement as well because there are different, there's only so long that this lasts. And so there's a lot of like nuances that we had to learn. So anyways, we started Glauconix and we started serving clients. We started to learn more about the technology itself, and actually it was very, very interesting, very cool. When we started working with these clients, to me, it was also fascinating the fact that a lot of the data we were providing were very similar to the data that they were actually seeing in the clinic. So better data than what they were finding. So that was huge to them and really huge to us. So it was a huge selling point for us to tell them, look, we have this client, because now these people are actually, this client is actually in the market. We have this data, we have their clinical data and the animal data. And guess what? Our data looks much more similar to the clinical data. So that really helped us a lot because it really gave us a lot more credibility to our technology. We really didn't even realize the technology could do all these great things. So we ended up learning again. It was a continuous learning about technology, learning about what to do. And we just kept taking those opportunities. So we ended up getting more clients, and then we said, okay, now what? The glaucoma business or the glaucoma technology services, I guess, is only so big. It's, and actually there is a lot of issues with it too. We need to expand and find a bigger market. So for that reason, we continue working in developing newer technologies, and that's actually leading us to in the next year, or probably this year. To change our name, not just to be Glauconix, because we're not going to be just serving glaucoma market. We're going to be serving also the lung. We're going to be serving diabetic retinopathy and vasculature, which is a complete different areas. We're actually changing our names and expanding the model and services that we're offering. So we've actually learned a lot. Also, by the way, I'm not the CEO of Glauconix anymore. We have actually a veteran, a well-trained, I guess, by experience, I should say, CEO, and she's great. She's also a woman, and she's very, very supportive. That's also another learning experience for us. It took us about 3 years, if not, and a lot of trial and errors, really to find this person, right? Because what are you looking in a CEO? A startup, we're young, we don't know what we're looking for. And we had some people that are just, they have experience, they sit on their desk, that's all they do, but that's just not what we needed, right? We're a startup. We need the people that are going to be not just the CEO, they're going to be doing a lot of the accounting, they're going to be doing, and sometimes guess what? We have to take out the garbage from the lab out. That's just what it takes. And some of the people that we had as interim CEOs just were not able to do that. And it's a shame because we should have known better. But at that point we had, you don't think about those things until after. But the person that's working with us now, Kimberly Sutherland, she's just great, right? She understands the culture. She understands that there's a lot that she also has to learn. She's learning a lot. She's willing to even come to the lab and learn the technology, but she knows she doesn't know it, and understand better. And it's just so much more helpful. So I focus more on the science now, which is what I like to do. And it's just great overall. The team that we have also is just fantastic, right? We actually ended up hiring, I think, almost everybody from SUNY Poly, right? And it's been great working with them because we knew them. I think especially going from grad school to working into a startup, sometimes it's not that much different because there's still a lot of work that has to be done. Of course, you do get your weekends off, which we sometimes don't get as grad students. But and overall, I think our professors and the people that we work with here really install, get us into that mindset, right? You've got to work hard, you need to get your papers done, right? There's a lot of back and forth, and I think that's exactly what we do at Glauconix now, right? We're constantly talking. If we're working with a client, a lot of times they don't tell us what they're working on, but they just say test this, or they tell us very little. So we get this data and we say, okay, what does this mean? Because we need to give them the data, but also explain what we think that means in our system. So there's a constant meeting. I mean, we have meetings everywhere, right? In the lab, in an office, sometimes even when we're walking, because there's a constant thinking about what is this data. And there's little things that we never thought we had to put in place, but as we're growing into becoming a more established company, not just an early stage startup, even we're not just having one client, right? We have multiples. How do you keep all of them straight? So we have a program that now they tell us how to set up the schedule for the study, making sure that we keep track of everything, which we didn't have to do before. And I never learned it as a grad student as much because I was so focused on my project. If it was just one or two, and this is experiments I do, but now we have 5, 6 different things that we're doing, so we need to keep them separate and internal R&D. So overall, I think to me, I take all of this as a learning experience, right? Taking the opportunities that were really in front of us and just taking them and going with the flow, but with the mindset of, okay, I'm learning something, right? Because sometimes when things you may fail, right? It's like what they say, I think almost 90%, if not more, of startups end up failing. And I think there's a reason why, right? It's very competitive, it's a lot of work, but that's okay, right? If you're of the mindset of, okay, I'm still learning something, I'm still gaining this kind of experience that a lot of other people don't get. So putting it, just thinking of or seeing things in a different perspective, I think really helps as well. So be very grateful. Look for those mentors that you have around you. I think there's a lot of great ones here at SUNY Poly. And I think that's all I have. I don't know how long I took. Is it too short? Oh, perfect. So that's all I have for you so far, but I can talk a lot more. If you ask questions, I'm sure I'll go on and on, so I hope this was good